Hi, boys and girls. We are going to be reading chapter 7 in your reader and working on activity book page 6.2, which you see in front of you. So go ahead and get those two books if you don't have them already, along with a pencil. And we're going to start on activity book 6.2. This is called an anticipation guide. So we're going to make some predictions before we read, and then actually as we're reading, we're going to find out if what we predicted was true. So before we read, you are going to fill in the before reading box, you are going to put a Y if you think the statement that is in the middle box is true. You're going to put an N for no if you think it is not true. And you're going to put IDK for I don't know. So let's look at the first one. It says, Venus and Psyche were friends who got along well. Maybe you've never heard of Psyche. You should have heard of Venus in our previous lessons. So if you think this statement is true, that Venus and Psyche were friends who got along well, put a Y for yes. If you don't think it's true, put an N. And if you don't know, put IDK. However, you're not allowed to put IDK for all of them. You can put IDK for 2. The rest you're taking a guess, because it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You're just making a prediction. Next, Cupid used his bow and arrow to shoot people so they would fall in love. Put a Y for yes, it's true, N for no, it's not true. Next, Psyche went to the Tiber River to meet Cupid. Yes if you think it's true, N if you think it's not true, and IDK if you don't know. Cupid and Psyche spent every day together. Y or N? Cupid left Psyche because she did not trust him. Y or N? Yes for true, N for not true, IDK for I don't know. Remember, you can put IDK for 2 boxes. That's it. Venus asked Psyche for help. Y, N, or IDK? Venus asked Psyche to complete 2 different tasks. Psyche listened to Proserpina, I think that's how you say it. Psyche listened to Proserpina and did not look inside the box. Yes, Y if you think it's yes for true, N for not true, or IDK. Cupid saved Psyche from the spell. Y, N, or IDK. Psyche and Cupid never saw each other again. Y, N, or IDK. So you should have every box filled in with Y, N, or IDK in the before reading section. And remember, you can only have 2 IDKs. So go ahead and open up your reader to chapter 7. Now we're going to read to find out if these statements are in fact true. If they are, in the after reading, we're going to put a Y for yes. We're going to write the word yes. If they're not true, we're going to write no, and we're going to correct them to make them true. So I gave you page numbers for when we're supposed to listen for these sentences, when we're supposed to listen for these ideas. So we're going to start on page 60, and we're listening to find out if Venus and Psyche were friends who got along well. The Romans, like the Greeks, had many myths they liked to tell. Some of these were stories about the gods. Some were stories about heroes. Some were love stories. The myth I am going to share with you is a love story. Once there was a king who had 3 daughters. All 3 were lovely, but the youngest, whose name was Psyche, was so beautiful that words could not describe her. She was so beautiful that people began to say she was more beautiful than the goddess Venus. Venus heard about Psyche. She was mad with jealousy. Was she, a goddess, to be forgotten on account of some young, pretty girl? She swore that would never happen. So are Venus and Psyche friends who get along? No. Venus is jealous. Venus is jealous of Psyche's beauty. Page 61. Venus went to her son Cupid. "My son," she said, "punish that girl. Shoot her with one of your arrows. Make her fall in love with the ugliest man on earth." So does Cupid use his bow and arrow to shoot people so they would fall in love? Yes. Next, we're listening for two things. Psyche went to the Tiber River to meet Cupid. Cupid and Psyche spent every day together. Cupid set off to do his mother's bidding. He took his bow and arrow and flew down to earth. He took aim at Psyche. At the last minute, though, his finger slipped. Instead of shooting Psyche, he pricked himself. So Cupid fell in love with Psyche. Cupid came up with a plan that would let him visit Psyche in secret. He sent a message to Psyche's family. It said that the gods had chosen a husband for Psyche. Psyche was ordered to climb to the top of a mountain where she would meet her husband. She was also told that her husband was not a man, but a terrible monster. Psyche was brave. She began to climb the mountain. Halfway up, she felt a warm wind surround her. Suddenly, she found herself in a magnificent palace with fountains and gardens all around. At first, Psyche was alone. When night fell, she lay down on a bed. During the night, Cupid visited her. He told her he was the husband of the gods had chosen for her. Cupid stayed all night. He treated Psyche tenderly, but he left before the sun rose. Night after night, Cupid came to visit Psyche. He came only at night, and he always left before the sun rose. So, did Psyche go to the Tiber River to meet Cupid? No, she went to the top of a mountain. And did Cupid and Psyche spend every day together? No, they spent every night together. Now, if you need to pause to make sure that you're writing down what I'm writing down, please pause the video and then continue when you're ready. Next, we're listening to find out if Cupid left Psyche because she did not trust him. Psyche knew him only in the darkness, but she accepted him as her husband. One night, Psyche asked her husband why he came only at night, when she could not see him. "Why do you wish to see me?" Cupid replied. "What does it matter what I look like? I love you. I treat you well. All I ask is that you love me." Psyche understood her husband's words. Still, she was curious. Who was her husband? What did he look like? Why did he hide? Was he really a terrible monster? She felt that she had to find out. One night, Psyche waited until her husband fell asleep. Then she got up and lit a lamp. She carried the lamp to the bed and lifted it up. What she saw was no monster, but the lovely face of Cupid himself. Her hand trembled with delight, and a drop of hot oil fell from the lamp. The oil landed on Cupid's shoulder and awoke him. Cupid looked up at Psyche with sad eyes. "I asked only for your trust," he said, "but this act of yours shows that you do not trust me. When trust is gone, love must depart." So Cupid left Psyche because she did not trust him. Is that a yes or is that a no? That's a yes. All right, next we're listening to find out if Venus asked Psyche for help, and did Venus ask Psyche to complete two different tasks? Then Cupid flew away. The palace vanished into thin air, and Psyche was left alone. When Cupid left Psyche, Psyche was very sad. She tried to find Cupid. She wandered night and day, but she could not find her lost love. At last, Psyche went to the temple of Venus. She begged the goddess to help her find Cupid. Venus was not eager to help. She was still jealous of Psyche and her beauty. She gave Psyche a task, confident the girl could never complete it. She led Psyche to a huge pile of grain. In the pile were wheat, millet, barley, and lentils, all mixed up. Sort the grains into stacks by morning, Venus ordered. Then, with a laugh, she disappeared. Look at that pile of grain down there at the bottom in the picture. Psyche saw that there were millions of seeds. She knew there was no way she could finish the task. She sat down and began to cry. Then something wonderful happened. Through her tears, Psyche noticed a seed moving, then another, and then many more. An army of ants had come to aid her. Each ant was carrying a seed. Together, they sorted seeds into separate piles. In the morning, Venus was surprised to find the work done. Your next task will not be so easy, she said. Take this box to the underworld and ask the queen of that realm, Proserpina, to send me a little of her beauty. So, did Venus ask Psyche for help? No. Psyche asked Venus. It's the other way around. Psyche asked Venus for help. And Venus asked Psyche to complete 2 different tasks. This is true. We're learning about the second one right now. So now we're listening to find out, did Psyche listen to Proserpina and not look inside the box? Psyche's heart sank. No human had ever visited the underworld and returned to tell the tale. Just then a voice spoke to her. Take a coin for the boatman, the voice said. Boatman, the voice said. If you pay him, he will carry you across the river to the underworld. Take a cake as well. If you give the cake to the 3-headed dog who guards the underworld, he will let you pass. Above all, once Proserpina has placed beauty in the box, do not open it. Psyche obeyed the mysterious voice. She traveled safely to the underworld, and Proserpina gave her the box of beauty for Venus. Psyche could not help wondering what was inside the box. She lifted the lid and peeked inside. A deep sleep came over her. She fell senseless to the ground. So, did Psyche listen to Proserpina and not look inside the box? No, she did not. She looked. She definitely looked. Psyche kind of does whatever she wants, doesn't she? So I'm going to read page 70 now. And on page 70, you're going to be listening for 2 things. To find out if Cupid saved Psyche from the spell, and to find out if Psyche and Cupid never saw each other again. To find out if those 2 things are true. You're going to fill in this box and this box on your own. I'm not doing it for you. You are doing it. Please don't turn in this paper to me with 2 blank boxes. You are doing it. So in each of those boxes, you're going to write yes if the statement is true, and you're going to write no if it's not true, and what it should say. So listen to page 70. Here we go. Luckily, Cupid was watching. Although he was disappointed in Psyche, he was still very much in love with her. When he saw her lying on the ground, he took pity on her. He lifted the sleeping spell, and Psyche awoke. See what curiosity gets you, Cupid said. He smiled at Psyche. Psyche smiled back. Psyche delivered the box to Venus. Cupid went to Jupiter and begged to marry Psyche with Jupiter's blessing. Jupiter agreed. He allowed Psyche to drink ambrosia, the drink of the gods. Psyche became immortal. So Cupid and Psyche were married and lived happily ever after. You can submit your finished assignment on Schoology.